they've got the Lord in their life and heart. I have learned that, and I've seen the roughest kids change. Someone said, the Lord doesn't change your personality, but actually He does. I mean, because your whole desire to hurt people goes away. And you start thinking of others and not just ourselves, because either we are a God or He is our God, right? Okay, so why don't we just pray again? Would you stand with me? And when you hear the word Good News Club on a video, or you hear us talk about it, remember that we are, Child Evangelism Fellowship is trying to reach the kids that don't go to church, so we get the really rough ones often. We go down to the mission, to the women's shelter, and that's where I'm happiest, though right now I am helping at a preschool, because it's their first year. I just love to help them get started until they get enough teachers. But, you know, we like to, my husband said there's only one thing better than bringing children to church, and that's bringing church to children. And of course, we've got Superbook, we've got wonderful things on TV, but there's nothing like having a person to teach you. You see this wonderful chair here? I have a few of these in my Sunday school class, but this empty chair cannot hug a child. It can't even write the child's name on their paper. And this chair offers no eye contact. And you know, eye contact is one of the best ways to show you care, isn't it? We'll pray now together. And Lord, I thank you so much for these seekers of truth and of wisdom. And I just pray that you will speak to them even as they go home today. Let them know that you have called them. Because you said to Peter to feed your lambs. You said that first. Lord, we don't know. We just know that if we're going to be sowers in fertile soil, we've got these little ones coming. And what a gift that they're coming to us. We don't have to always go out and get them. Lord, but you said that sometimes we will need to go out and get them. And we will be willing to do that. But we can't do it ourselves. So I ask that you make a generational change, that you raise up our children to be soul winners and to be teachers. You said you give teachers to the church, Lord. And we need you. We lift our hands on behalf of the kids that you will save our country, Lord. Thank you so much. In your name, amen. Okay, you can sit down. But now some kids learn better not in a chair, they learn better on the floor. So one secret to our class on managing a classroom is that we have to use the room the Lord gives us. And it might be the basketball court, right? Your room might be a staircase. Your room might be a closet, like mine was one of the first years in a Christian school when we started a special education program. The principal gave me the closet under the stairs, and that was okay. I only had 3 or 4 children at a time. She cleaned out the crib and all the chairs, and so I had this nice narrow little room, not as wide as this aisle here, but the kids were seated. Actually, it was such an advantage because they didn't run, you know, they didn't run. And I didn't realize kids with autism tend to be run, but I could teach them to read because they weren't there. And I could bring in different visuals. I couldn't store anything under that closet. There was just no room for that. I had them use clipboards for their desks because we couldn't put a table in it. But that's how new things are birthed. And did you know that everything starts little? Is that interesting? Everything in life starts little. So let's say that you have one child in your Sunday school class, or you have 5. It doesn't matter. You really teach the same for 1 as for 5 or for 50, right? And the Lord gives you the strength to do that. So we have some notes that actually follow along with this short video. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I think I'm into it. We have about 15 minutes left on it. But if you would like to just go ahead and read through your notes, there's really not anything to fill in except at the beginning. And I'm wondering if some of you can guess what is the first link in managing the classroom. Okay, boys and girls, sit up straight. We're going to hear a story. Now, would any of them listen if you said that? What if you said, hey, we've got some rules here in our Sunday school class. You have 5 fingers, give me 5. Now, some of them do know this from school. eyes, ears, hands, face, feet. Okay, you give them 5. If they're looking at the teacher and listening, they're supposed to put 5 up. That's called a silent signal. We're going to talk about good silent signals. You need 1 or 2. You can think of them yourself. Sometimes we use a flip the lights like I did to start the video. That's a good idea. If you have someone that can stand by the lights, and usually it means a freeze. And then universal rules for using a whistle. We're trying to teach children worldwide that 1 blow is a freeze. This is a police system, because my husband now does security. And I've noticed the principals are doing this too. 2 blows is thaw. 3 whistle blows is SOS, this is an emergency. Come straight to me. I am your teacher. Find your teacher. You could be on the farthest corner of the playground, but you find your teacher. And if there's a gun right outside the fence, you say, get on your tummy. And I've had that happen twice in public schools. In Fresno, where we had a gunner just outside the fence. You know, I hate to have to practice that now with preschoolers, but boy, they're sure spending a lot of time practicing at lockdowns and everything. We've in Bothell, only had to have a lockdown twice. And I was with a very young teacher in a YMCA room. I had gone there to give an announcement about a good news club. That teacher was alone. The doors were locked on us. I was so glad I was there. I said, well, the teacher, you know what? I just started playing Legos with the children and not acting scared. Finally, one person had to go to the bathroom. I showed her how to make a toilet from a, you see that wastebasket with plastic? Ideal toilet if you're locked in a room, right? And there's little things that you learn. And so she wasn't as afraid. At least she didn't show it, just a little bit. And we just kept playing Play-Doh. I mean, not Play-Doh, Legos. We just got some things going. We had a contest. We had already shut our blinds. We knew that was a lockdown. Don't get me started on on preparation for disaster, but if you want any of those clues, you can Google it, right? And then the Northwest Ministries Conference had a class on it, and I was able to do the video. And then the next month, COVID started. And nobody's ready for anything, I guess, that really happens to us. But let me tell you the worst thing. You're with preschoolers, and you have a gas leak, that's very common, and you have to take them out of your Sunday school classroom. Just keep them busy. I had for 2 hours, had to stay out of our classroom. I had the kids sit on the curb. These are 3-year-olds. I looked around, I said, what do we have to play with? We had beauty markers. So everybody had to find a nice long piece, use it as a pencil. We practiced our letters. I tried to keep them going. You don't just stand there and talk to other teachers. What do you think is going to happen? Will the fireman turn off the gas? I mean, we don't do that, right? And then if you get 1 or 2 cries, sing right away. And that usually helps them. So I did start this week in my 2.5-year-old preschool class, and I had, of course, the first day you get criers, but I prayed and prayed, and within 5 minutes I had no criers. We were 18 short. I was so happy. The second day of school, no one cried. Third day of school, I had 2 new students Friday. They did cry, but they learned by looking, right? So I just let one of them sit on the corner, doesn't have to do a thing. And you can do this with older kids. If somebody really doesn't want to participate, it's okay to have them watch. What we don't want is this kind of behavior where they're hurting somebody, themselves, or property. Now, the only one that wants them to do that is Satan, right? He wants them to die young. I know that because I work with too many people that wanted to commit suicide. That is his plan. If we can get to these children before so that they can know the Lord, and let the Lord be the judge. It says in Genesis, you know, he is a judge. He'll do what's right. And I was telling a friend I've been with my father-in-law, 85 years old, always wanted to die. Lived his life as an atheist, never married, high school teacher. So the last 2 years he's just talking about suicide. When he actually caught COVID, I decided my husband did not want him back into our house because he swore too much and my husband couldn't take it. And besides, we had a teacher living with us. Well, she moves out the day that we decided someone had to be with this brother-in-law in his apartment. So I'll go, I'll stay there, but I need respite care. So I had my brother and I had this teacher. We arranged for someone to give me Sundays off, and then I had 2 evenings off. Otherwise it was 24/7. You know how it is, taking care of someone. But it was like I said, it was so important. He always wanted to die. That was what he would say out loud. And when he started confessing that all over the senior center, it's not good. So I was sort of thankful they had a lock-in. The poor people at COVID in this senior living center. Because I could still take him out for a drive if, he really worked for it. I made him work for it. He had to do some exercises, right? He had to do things to go out for a drive, but it meant it might just stay in the same apartment. And, he's been an active guy, right? But the thing is, I think he received the Lord. Because I heard him really pray 2 days before. We went on hospice because they couldn't give him strong enough medicine to sleep more than 10 minutes at a time. That had been going on for 2 weeks. I needed some sleep. He needed to sleep. And joining hospice, they could give us the medicine that would allow him to sleep. And that's what he wanted. And I was his medical person, and I'm also his executor, and so I was trying to do what he said to do. But we don't want to see people die, right? Well, all over Seattle and King County, you know what we are famous for in King County? We have the most child abuse and the most call-ins of any county in the whole United States. 1,000 a week. That's with school out. And then if school is on, King County gets more child abuse calls because we've got people watching kids, and teachers are supposed to be mandated reporters. So King County is famous. I thought, that's not good. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm teaching kids. Because we all want to be people of influence. But we have a few things going for us when you're teaching children already. We do have this fertile soil that the Bible talks about, right? Because Jesus said they have faith. And we want them to know a Christian. When they have to leave their parents for the first time, let's say in your Sunday school class, they're 2 years old, I don't want them to go through trauma. Now, it's nice if the parent will stay with them. I think I stayed with my little boy a whole year in the 2-year-olds, and others are welcome. They often become Sunday school teachers when their parents stay. But that child is learning trust at 2.5 and 2. And who are they going to trust first? If they've had the experience of coming to Sunday school, life is going to be easier for them because they'll know a loving person that holds them tight, and they'll respond to what you say. I mean, they trust us way too much. That's why the Lord said a little stone. Well, He said we will be judged if we offend a child. Correct? How do we offend a child? Well, most of it is in how we discipline kids. And we come on too strong. And I know that, my husband has a type A personality. He can pinpoint, he's very good with older boys, but he doesn't really embarrass them in front of others. And I thought that is a good thing. He's got the commanding voice that they're looking for now in public school teachers. They'd rather have someone that's been in the Army or been in the police force in their class than have someone like me that talks softer and softer. Now, that's why I can't be in public school. I'm definitely retired. My words are not fast. But I've taught kindergarten through 8th grade, and you have to be so quick and so on it. And my personality is just slowing down, so I'd rather not. But we work with any child and you can't embarrass them. That would be a way to offend them. And because when you think of their will as the strongest thing in their soul, what is a soul worth to the Lord? What is one child or one spirit or one soul worth to the Lord? You know why people say it's worth the whole world? One child? Because Jesus would have come here and lived and died for just one child. He wanted fellowship with us. He wanted us to be his friend. And so we are given this will as a person that's so different than animals. We can will to do things. We do not act by instinct. A lot of people think children's behavior comes from their environment. Others think children's bad behavior comes from their genes. Have you heard that in college? Right, okay. You inherited that German temper. Oh, really? No. I did have a grandmother who received the Lord, but her husband had a temper. Ooh. I mean, but it's not based on your nationality, is it? Your temper, a lot of that is probably your environment. But the Bible says you're born in sin. And so we believe that bad behavior comes because We are born independent, selfish, very cute, but wanting our own way. So then we get bad behaviors. And these kids come to good news clubs, they come to church, and they start distracting, and they start pulling things off the bulletin boards like this. Now that would be hurting property, right? So that's something I need to jump and take care of. What if they're doing this, the person right next to them? That's hurting someone else, right? So we jump. And the third thing is themselves. Now kids are starting to, it used to just be that they did ink all over their hands, you know, I remember in junior high school. Now it's worse. They take fentanyl, they take these things, and my husband saw someone die just yesterday when he was doing security at his restaurant that he watches them. He said, you know, Jan, I love being a children's pastor, but I want to get out of church work. That's what my husband told me 3 years ago. And now he, it's okay, he can, you know, the Lord leads us all different ways. He said, I will back you up if you volunteer for CEF, and you won't even have to work, but we just love to work still, so we work a little bit. He said, I'm the only light downtown Seattle. He said, I don't know another Christian in that square block. He said, if I stand there at that restaurant door, the manager is 27 years old, and they gave us this free dinner 2 weeks ago, and this manager treats Earl like a father. Just asks questions after questions after questions. And everybody who works in that restaurant are either in homosexuality or, you know, or they're really looking for purpose, you would say, or they're looking for something. They're like very young, all single young people. They think going, you know what they think is fun? After working till 10:30 at night, they think going to a bar is fun. But you know what? Because they don't have the Lord, they don't have a relationship, they have no family to go home to. And here's Earl, and he is sharing the gospel and talking to all the homeless people. I drove up there one night to check on him, and he was giving a man a hug. Big beard, and oh, you know, he comes and talks to me every night. And for the homeless to give him a hug, I thought, that's good. But he does have a gift in speaking, because my husband practices all week on his Sunday school lesson. I'm not kidding. He said, well, that's my devotions. I said, oh, well, I'm reading through the Bible in my one-year Bible. He said, well, I just am studying about Moses, and like it was the 10 Commandments 2 weeks ago, and then he studied it really, you know, thoroughly, and he gets 20 minutes on Sunday morning, but he's got every eye on him. So I said, what are some of your secrets? He says, well, you know, I don't just stand in one place. A lot of times I'm down on the floor like this with the kids. And he says, even though other people say you're not supposed to do a negative compliment, like, hey, sit still. See, that's a negative. You should say, oh, I like how you have your hands in your lap. He'll always say, everyone's sitting up straight. Oh, look, you know. So he'll give a positive, but we're not supposed to tell children a negative thing like, stop running in church, you know. Hey, why don't you walk and use your indoor thing? Now that would be positive. Because if you give them a negative, children are going to think only on what you said, that second, that negative compliment. Stop hitting! No. Here, let me hold your hand. Give yourself a hug. Keep your hands to yourself. That would be a positive thing. Okay, so these, before I get distracted, I want you to write down these websites, positivediscipline.com. I love that. Loveandlogic.com, because after today, you can go and ask them hundreds of questions, or you can see. What I like about the positive discipline, look, they give you this wheel. And as a teacher, you have about 15 choices of what to do when you see a bad behavior. Okay, you know, count to 10. That's what, this is really for public school teachers. Have a choice mobile. Well, some teachers have a poster, but the posters in most of our notes are for us teachers, right? Not for the kids. In fact, if you're going to put posters up in your room, please change them every month. These are so beautiful, but you know, kids won't see them after 4 Sundays. And they're going to see your walls more than they'll see anything else. Except that the teacher is supposed to be the best visual. Now I forget that sometimes. We are the best visual, and we know visuals are important. So now we're going to watch these kids. And then I took notes like this on my phone when I went to a Love and Logic class. And if you wish to look up that website there, that actually started from a Christian couple down here at Bethany Community Church by Green Lake. We know them really well. They're wonderful. But They have gotten us through a lot of hard times, and it works. Love and logic means you show empathy before you discipline. Did you see how Miss Jan was sort of kind? I mean, she got down to their eye level. It's supposed to be eye to eye, palm to palm. So if I'm having a little counseling session with you because you just broke that toy over there, I want to get down to your eye level. And I'll say, now, what do you think we should do about it? But you'll notice kids will not be able to think until they've had a quiet time. So love and logic tells you to separate the child first. And I told you those things we jump on. Okay, because God separates us from his presence. That's really scary. Huh? We don't have the joy of the Lord when our heart isn't right with the Lord, right? And I don't like that feeling at all. And once you've had it, you know. Now you might say, well, Jan, you know, I haven't felt, say, pricked in our conscience for 3 or 4 days. Good, then maybe you haven't offended the Lord. That's really amazing. That's good. But you'll feel it. Like one time I went and took some masking tape from a teacher, and I didn't tell her about it. Oh my. I felt it. It was the Lord reminding me, you better, or at least he reminded me to bring it back, and then I asked next time before I took the masking tape out of the class. So I knew that was, oh, the Lord's still there. No, he's still speaking to me, right? But children, if they're a Christian, they believed in the Lord, then we can work on the discipline part, right? Otherwise, you are an expensive babysitter, or you are, I call it, well, something else. Last night I was dreaming about these other names that I was. I am not an expensive babysitter. I am a children's Bible teacher. And you are a parent. Every parent is a teacher, right? Not every teacher is a parent, but you're a great influence. So we've got the greatest influence on children, their parents. Next is the input of the screens. That's what it is these days. So it might be if the child watches TV at 2, think of all those seeds that are being planted in that child's mind. Be sure that TV is something that Jesus would watch, right? Or that screen program. The next greatest influence on children, though, are the grandparents. And if they can see their grandparents, because that generation is so wise, and they can share things, and a lot of times they're more patient. So they say, I don't know, research has shown that grandparents would be the 3rd greatest influence if they're like down the road, or you know, you get to see them a little bit. And the 4th greatest influences are toys, what they act out. And then we've got schools, 5th. And then of course, as they grow older, it's their peers. And that can start at what, 7 years old? You know, they get so, they think about themselves a lot, you know, when they're older. And the whole world revolves around them, right? In a child's eyes, the whole world revolves around them. So at 2 years old, we teach them about their body. Then maybe their family at 4 years old, and then their community at 5 or 6 years old. And then finally they learn about the United States. And finally they learn there's a whole world out there. And when they're in high school, do they think of others? When I substituted in high school, this was a question I asked, and when there were no good lesson plans at all for me to follow, I'd say, okay, now what % of people on earth live in the United States? Try to get some input. 96%. Okay, let's write that on the board. Someone else. 55%. Okay, right on the board. I never got a good answer until 10 or 20 of the kids, until I told them, well, we're about 6% of the population on earth. We are? Yeah, and the way you can tell wealth is by the number of shoes you own. Because I read that in the missionary book. I have 2 pairs of shoes. You're among the top 20%. No, top 30. It's changing a little bit. You know, computer, if we have a computer, we're in the top like 1%. If you have a refrigerator, you're like in the top 20%. Anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but high schoolers are still thinking of themselves as well. So sometimes when you're a teacher and a Christian, you want the kids to learn what's called otherness. Because when you see this behavior on the video, they're sure not thinking of others. They want that toy right now. And that is why I teach 2 and 3-year-olds. Because I'm trying to teach them, oh, if the toy's in her hand, you can't take it off. You can't take it out of her hand. But I want it. That's what they say. Okay, we'll watch these children and fill in the notes. But did you get the answer to the first one, though?
For the kids. We asked some children what would make them
you'll find it out. It's a
they have to try to stand up quicker and quieter than the teachers. Or they have to freeze every time you stop the music while they are singing a song. You can even use a game to get their attention when they are distracted, like this. All right, here's one. If you can hear me, clap your hands one time. You can hear me their head. Suddenly the kids are starting to pay attention because you're playing a game, and they will begin to join in. Let's see what else kids have to say about club.
So hard to be quiet. I talk all the time. It would be fun if the kids could have a turn to talk. I want to talk to everybody.
The kids really want to talk, so plan opportunities for talking in your club. You could give all of the kids a chance to talk by asking a question and having them talk with the person sitting next to them about what they think the answer is. Or you could have them all whisper or shout their answer at the same time, and you count to 3. On the count of 3, shout out the name of your favorite animal. 1, 2, 3. Tiger! If you use a new word or a long word like righteousness or Samaria, you can have the kids repeat it with you in a fun way like this.
Jesus traveled through Samaria. Let's all whisper Samaria 2 times in a really slow voice. Samaria. Samaria. Great job.
Take opportunities that present themselves to just talk to the kids. As they come into the room, ask questions so they have a chance to talk and so you can build relationships and get to know them. You can ask them what their favorite ice cream is or how many brothers and sisters they have. Small group time is one of the best times to talk with the children and let them talk to you. In the lesson text, an idea is given for each week's small group activity. It's not hard to build a relationship with the child. It just takes intentionality and taking opportunities that come up even if it's just a few minutes. No matter what part of the club you are teaching, ask God to show you ways you can allow the children to talk. It helps them learn and makes it interesting for them. What else should we keep in mind as we're teaching kids?
Sitting still is so boring. The worst part is sitting still. Sometimes I feel like my brain is telling me to move, but I can't help it. I want to get up and run around.
Like it or not, kids really do need to move. In fact, their muscles actually can hurt if they sit still for too long. So you need to plan movement. Use fun motions with memory verses, songs, and even the word up statement. Look for places where you can lead the kids in role-playing the action in a lesson or missionary story. Don't just tell them what the characters did. Show them and invite them to act it out with you. I like to plan at least 3 places in my lesson where I will have the kids briefly act out something from the lesson. Kneel down like this. And I want you to say, Jesus is alive with me in first your soft voice, then your medium voice, and then your loud voice. Here we go. Jesus is alive. Jesus is alive. Jesus is alive. You can also help wiggly kids by teaching them how to wiggle respectfully. They can wiggle their toes, twiddle their thumbs, or even wiggle their tongues inside their mouths. I show them how to do it, and then challenge them to try to do it in club without me noticing. You can also assign a buddy to a child who needs to move and have that person sit with the child and help him to focus. Keep in mind you don't have to do all of these things in your club, but maybe as you were listening you thought, oh, I should try this. So go ahead, try some of these things and see what will work best.
Okay, we're going to just, if you've taught children 10 years, could you stand up? 10 or more years? Is there anyone here who has taught 10 or more years? Just stand up for a moment. Nobody? I was thinking if you have, that is the goal, I think, is to continue as a teacher. And that's why we need discipline, so that the children will not burn the teachers out, right? So I was going to say for you to get in your groups, and then the one that has been teaching 10 years or more needs to tell you their secret for having stayed in the ministry. Is there anyone that's been here 10 years or more? Okay, just stand up if you have.
No, just been 10 years here, but I teach somewhere else.
That's okay. Any place, it could be, you know, even homeschooling, I would sure count that. Anyone who's done 10 years teaching. So they're your heroines here. And they can give you lots of good tips. Okay, we need to we need to do a lot of things. You don't have a few minutes. Quiet signals. Remember, working with a big group, we need them. He talked about shout-outs. So Child Evangelism Fellowship has this phrase that we emphasize for each lesson. It might be, God is the creator. So all we do is say, word, and the kids have to stand up. God is a creator. So see, we've introduced that. That's our theme for the day. And then we interject that in these places when we see real restlessness starting. Because as adults, we don't realize that they have to move. What's the attention span of a 4-year-old, would you say? Do you know? Yes, very good. 4 minutes. How about a 2-year-old? 2 minutes. And a 7-year-old. 7 minutes. And an adult. 7 minutes. 7 to 10. Like when our pastor's speaking, that's why I have to write sometimes. We need something to do with our hands, and in 7 minutes, our mind could stray. It's hard to focus longer than 7 minutes. That's why commercials are broken up into 7 minutes. But if you'll time some of the commercials now, you'll see they're getting, they're frequent in some programs, and so they say that's why our children aren't able to listen. But you know, if a child is writing, that's doing something. They should be able to do it longer. Someone was saying, oh, Sunday school is so boring. Well, I wonder if you read the Bible in your Sunday school class. I know a 4th grade teacher, she actually had desks. Now, anytime you're allowed to work with a table or a desk, you are protecting your kids. It's like a fort. It's a really good idea to seat them around a table, if you have it. And if you don't, we've got floors, we've got chairs. This chair is a desk. So if I gave my kids a written activity, they could still do it on this chair easily, but I'm having them change their position. Also, when we pray, it's good to have the kids get down and kneel down. I've done that in the preschool quite a bit, because they need to change position too. Plus, it doesn't hurt for them to teach. Well, this is what people do when they visit a king. They often bow. I had a little boy yesterday say, thank you, a 3-year-old. So he had been trained, I guess, in his Indian culture to say, thank you. Now, I'm getting really sidetracked. So when we pray, when we're changing position, it's a good thing. And we're working with our hands, that's a very good thing. But how about quiet signals? There's a lot of ways to do it. You can start like with 2- and 3-year-olds. We go. But actually, that's a little hard. That's about for 4 and 5s and older. And then they repeat it. But who wants all that noise? I mean, I use music with my 2-and-a-half-year-olds and 3-year-olds to just change the transition time. But you also can use quiet coyotes, you know. That's a school-wide quiet signal. Or like I have the deer class right now. My 3-year-olds are called deers. Or you might be bunnies or kittens. And then once you do this, they do it. I was in a jellyfish class the other day, and the teacher says, jelly. And all the folks go, fish! They have to become fish. And in like 2 days, they learned it. The only thing I see that was wrong, I think, she did so good. I wouldn't do it too often. She was doing it out on the playground 5 or 6 times. I think there might need to be something different when you're outside, because the jellyfish thing works so well when they were in the class getting ready for a story. Oh, they did fish. So that's called an echo quiet sign. And it used to be that we did this one way. Just put our hand up. Everyone puts their hand up. That means Jesus is the way. And there's all kinds of little songs. But what I would suggest, if you're with a nice big group, you just choose some signal. How about just starting to sing a song like Jan was saying? That's what I would do with preschoolers. Jesus loves them. That always calms them down. You have to sing very slow, but you need to get them going. Don't just sing so fast that it goes right over their heads. What are other quiet signals that some of you teachers have used that you could suggest to us? Anything? The hand clapping thing I only use if the child is hurting property, themselves or someone else. Boy, I once, you know what I did once? I can't tell you. I was in a 2-year-old class with 25 kids down in California. And I was there with a mother watching. She was the other adult, but she wasn't really a helper. She had never been in a Sunday school class before. So I seat the kids by the wall, give them their cookie, and that's when I tell the Bible story, right? That's how and they were so quiet. But one little boy would take a cookie from someone. Then he would take someone else's cookie. He was going right down the line taking cookies. I took his little hand, I said, little hand, do not take cookies. I went like this. They suspended me for 2 Sundays from Sunday school. So I learned, don't even spank a little bit. I mean, I was guarding. Oh, that little boy just sat so quiet. It's like I had really won. I was in another situation a few years ago, a kindergartner. He was almost, I could almost say he had some spirits in him that I don't like. Because all he wanted to do was terrorize, play monster. And he had to sit on a separate sofa most of our after-school playtime because all he wanted to do was play monster. Well, he had been so good on the sofa for 20 minutes. I let him play dominoes with us. So I've got 4 children around the table, and they had their dominoes sitting up. He comes over, and I had his dominoes right there. And he said, I want those. I want those. No, William, these are your dominoes. Okay, I was right by him, so I was sort of guarding from these others. He goes behind me, and he starts pulling hair. And his girl starts screaming. So I do what I'm supposed to do, a backwards hug, right? You're allowed to pull, we're allowed to restrain like this, okay? So if someone's hurting someone, this is a safe way to restrain. Or take your 3rd finger and your thumb and just hold this. This will not hurt them, but you can walk with them. Okay, so I had tried that. I had tried being very firm and very loud, very loud. No, William! But I said to the kids, move away, move away. Well, the kids were guarding their dominoes. They would not move from their dominoes. So they're sitting there. I had already tried pulling his leg because he really was hurting some kids. And we're not even supposed to touch their legs, right? But I was the only teacher, and my teacher had gone to Ethiopia, and I should have never been there alone, even with 10 kids. You have to follow the 2-adult rule. And I only had 6 kids. I should have never been there. And now William and I had been talking about a spanking. Right? Okay, he'd never had one in his life. I talked with his dad. His dad said, oh, he doesn't need a spanking. And then that night, William ran out in front of a car when his dad said, stop. William didn't listen to his dad. And the dad, he had looked at me. Well, anyway, he had never given him a spanking, right? So I come over, and I didn't know what to do. I had tried everything. I took William's leg, and I just went like this. And because of the element of surprise, he stopped. Oh, it's very quiet. It was the element of surprise, though. It wasn't this. And I mean, it wasn't danger. And I think that's what people, when the Bible talks about using the rod, I heard that, like, you know, a 6-month-old can manipulate their parent. And that's what my little boy did. When he was 6 months, he would not lay still when I changed his diaper. I gave him one little slap like that. He was still the rest of the 2 years. Never had a problem with him falling off the high diaper changing table again. Now, I know we're not supposed to use our hands to slap, but I was a parent and I did. Anyway, that's the way to get fired, if you need me to know. There's other ways to teach. It all worked out because I was only supposed to help that preschool until December, and it was December. I knew it would cost me my job. And I said, they're fine without me. And that's why I had given William that. But you know what happened? William stayed in the school, got better, but not until every single teacher had just about burned out, pulled out their hair. And it's easier to find a teacher than another student when you have a Christian school. It really is these days. So that is how it is.
Biting.
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 2-year-olds bite.
4 or 5-year-olds.
4 and 5-year-olds. Well, first of all, you want to remove them from the other children, okay?
Okay.
Because that is hurting another child.
Yes.
And usually we have to tell the parent when something like that happens, because if you're not in a child care situation, you know, I think in child care we try to give them 3 chances, but if they've bitten 3 times, they have to.
Yes.
I would have a parent stay in the class with him, because some parents think, oh, my child would never do that. We call that shadowing. Shadowing. And kids at 6th grade sometimes have grandpa come and sit in the class with them if they're violent, if they're allowed back into the classroom. And that's considered violence.
Yeah, I agree.
Biting is. And then if he's already 2, he's 2. Because it is something common for 2, but 5. So see, that is bad. So he's already learned to do it. Sometimes a 2-year-old will try it. And I guess others have put like things in their mouth. They give them a toy, or that's why we have fidget things in church. I know one lady's bought a few of those, and she's got children that she'll pass out one of those every Sunday morning to that child before they come to children's church. And we haven't had any biting, but any other ideas for biting? Well, definitely get the director.
Jen, you give the frigid toys to those who can.
And the others want it.
Yeah, and they say, why can't I have it?
So that child has to be sitting in a special seat, either far in the back where the children don't see the toy. I don't think they should be getting a $500 seat in front where they can see the storyteller the best and then have a little toy. That is not fair.
Oh.
And they shouldn't get to hold a Bible. Oh, but you know, I was going to tell you about reading the Bible. I heard some kids say they were bored. So this 4th grade teacher, and I did this in my school, every day for a year I had a $5 Bible question. If you really have readers like 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, you want them Sunday morning not just to listen to you, give them a silent reading time. Give them 5 minutes to read the Bible. And then you have your popsicle sticks, and I brought lots of those. I thought maybe you would take.
Oh, oops.
I'd like them to take 20 popsicle sticks each. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But you can pull out their name, and then the child can also pull out the question to be absolutely fair. I learned as a 5th grade Christian school teacher that if I was going to do the $5 Bible question every day, I have to be absolutely fair. So if they won the $5 that month, though, their name doesn't go back in the cup. Now, my husband gives $100 Bible questions, and he's actually given them out. But they have to be on something he's taught on that the kids were listening to. Let's just stop this here. Of course, it goes off when you're speaking. This is the popsicle sticks that you can pull out, but people use all different kinds of things now. Do you know that it's also okay to have a drawing? I heard of some churches that they grew very fast because every Sunday morning they had a drawing. And what the director would do is go around to the stores and ask for these donations. And they were in such a rough neighborhood that had so much stealing going on anyway. And they said, I'll give you this. One person gave him a bicycle. So see, he told them, okay, 4 Sundays we'll be drawing out your name for a bicycle, and if you can answer the Bible question, you get it. So they have to answer the Bible question. I would suggest that you read some of the questions from Deborah's class that were real gospel-oriented, solid Bible questions. My easiest one, how many stories in the Bible are true? It's my easiest one. How many parts are there in the Bible? But if you've assigned them a specific reading portion for 5-10 minutes, life is not boring if the teacher is going to draw out a name and ask that child a Bible question. So you can do that. You can do anything using the element of surprise, and it will be much more effective than other things. Now, you've always got a few kids that are little leaders, right? When we're with the older kids, 1st through 6th grade, Minute to Win It has become popular for games. You can look it up on Google. It's called Minute to Win It. And what they do, they give you ideas of things that you can do, but you're always going to choose just a few volunteers. So I would say in a group this big, I would choose 5 children and maybe 5 more afterwards. And they just want to show how skilled they are. See, so they have 1 minute, and you can download it. It will show on there. It'll show a countdown. And let's say the game was stack up these 3 toilet paper rolls and 3 of these. Now always make sure you can do it before the children. Now I can see that my toilet paper rolls are not strong enough. I'm going to use this stronger one here. Now in 1 minute, if I could do it, I put my hands up. Okay, no, that didn't work. Okay, but you have a few of these kids doing something that's not, Bible at all, but it's something they have. It's a challenge in 1 minute, and then you could say things. Oh, that shows who knows how to clean a room. Okay, you can do all kinds of things. Use anything around the house. Hangers, have them hang up stuff. Have them fold 5 washcloths in 1 minute, or look up the Minute to Win It games on here and play 1 each Sunday. We don't do it now because we're at a church that doesn't want foolishness right now. So, but when we had Good News Club, you get 75, 80 kids, they all want to be in the Minute to Win It game. That's what they came for, should be in that game. And sometimes it's eating an apple, or they do silly things like you know, you shave a balloon, but the child has to hold that balloon that has the knot in it in their mouth. Ooh. And you put a tarp on the floor before so that the church will like you. And then you do other things. But we give a lot of little tiny, tiny incentives, like little books and things like those devotional books that are out on the table. And you can hide a Bible question under the chairs and see who has the question, and that person will come up and answer it. If they do, they get like a little book or a track. I love tracks. You know, those are short stories about Jesus that are gospel tracks. So this, there's a lot of different games where you have targets. And I want to tell you, the boys, I went to a workshop on how to teach boys. I had never heard of that before. It was offered in Washington for the preschool teachers. And he said, this man said, there's two things that boys will always respond to, and those are target games or rhythm. So anytime you got the beanbag, you had the simplest, you know, thing that they have to throw. Or like I noticed yesterday, Target had this for $1. Oh yeah, and the element of surprise, that's why I did this. Now I could make a big deal of this. Kids, today, Bible verse games under this box. And I pull this out. Oh, Halloween glow ball. Okay, can you bounce the ball while you say the whole Bible verse? Let's choose this volunteer right here. You've been sitting so quietly listening. Would you try 1 Corinthians 15? Now, we've all done it about 10 times as a group. We said that Christ died for our sins, but can you say it while you're bouncing it?
Christ died for our... Or you have to go like a basketball player.
Whatever you... I think that would be good. Or you could do it right there.
Christ died for our
Just
sins.
do it one-handed.
Oh!
That's pretty good. I don't think the kids could do it one-handed, but two-handed?
Or you catch it first.
You could. Now this is a long verse. You got part A done. Christ died for our sins. Or can you do the whole thing? You know, and maybe if somebody could do the whole thing, I'll give them this dollar ball. Because I can't, you know what, I can't send this in the Samaritan's purse box because it has a liquid in it. So this would not be a good toy to send overseas, but there's a lot of things that kids need, and just sometimes you get good prizes. This would be fun. I think the kids would really want to say the whole verse. Does anybody know 1 Corinthians 15:3 and 4? It's one of the basic salvation verses, and sometimes I teach the same verse for a month. So it's okay when you're doing a long verse. In fact, I found out the 2 best teachers in the world, they live right here in Redmond. And they go to this church, and they're the best teachers in the whole world. And their last name starts with R, but it's not Radford. It's not Radford, no. It's review and repetition. Oh, they'll really help you a lot. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Most of our visuals, when you find toys laying around like this, you know, anytime the kids are in a bad mood, they just need to be playing some kind of a thank you game, and they'll get in a good mood, right? Because praise is how we're supposed to enter church, and that's why we have music sometimes at the beginning, because the Bible says, enter his gates with thanksgiving. So here, if I have some early birds, I'll just ask them to take a letter out and think of something they're thankful for that starts with that letter. I'm so happy you're here, Jessie. Now, if I did this in front of a group, they would probably watch for a minute. And then I might go down the line. If she has to pause and think, I might have 3 or 4 kids, and I just give them a little candy or a cookie or something. Can you think of something that you're thankful for that starts with that letter?
Thank you for the nature that God created for us to live in.
That's wonderful. And have you been to a park this week or seen nature?
Yes, I went to Redmond Park.
Oh, I'm so happy. That's wonderful. It's 90 degrees outside right now. Inside. Okay, when you ask them to do a question, now we like to say in CEF, remember which I told you is 80 years of wisdom, right? Working with children. They have 5 simple rules so that when we're out on the streets or by the apartment buildings or in the parking lots, we want to have 5 simple rules. And we call them up rules, and we have all these posters, and I have many of them we can share, but you can also order them whenever you order a story on cefpress.com. You will get the up rules. Now you'll notice on the back table are free notes, more free notes. And you could have one of these little posters up, but remember, if I keep it up longer than a month, are the kids going to see it? No, they're not going to see it. But here is my nice poster, stay in your place, zip the lid. Most teachers like to have just 3 or 4 rules for their class. And we have, we can say, little puppet, taught that puppet, why in the world do we have to have rules? Or they keep us safe. But you don't have to use the word rules. You could say, hey kids, here are our directions for having fun. And then you got yours, whatever your rules are. Mine used to just be follow directions. I thought one rule was enough for my kids. Stay in your seat. Well, let me tell you the CEF rules. It's sit up, because we don't really like them to lay down when the Bible story is going on. And I go over these rules before the Bible lesson, not before the music, because I really want them to move for the music. So sit up, hand up, if you need to talk. Now this hand up is a flag, and your teacher will stop talking, so please don't raise your hand when she's in the middle of a sentence, or wait till he, we're supposed to give him a chance to talk. Wait till he says, do you have questions? Okay, so we have this sit up, hands up, look up. They're not supposed to have a toy in their hand. Zip up, I'm missing one. Listen up. Oh, yes. Remember, it's very hard for kids to listen, but that is the sense that gives us all community. The most important thing you have. You might think your eyes are the most important. I think, I go blind sometimes. I think I'm going blind. I learned Braille so that in case I did, I could still read. But if I keep my contacts on too long, it's not good. But I still think that hearing is the greatest, most important sense that I've noticed among the elderly. If you have your hearing, you have community. And children don't realize they have sharp hearing, but they don't want to hear. So we got to pray, Lord, just open their hearts. And if you really want them to hear, you know what the secret is? But you might want this to be one of your rules. Let's have fun. And some teachers have the rule, after every Bible verse we play a game. The Bible verse game could even be like a minute to win it. Could be something, when we call up volunteers, or something they all do together. And Child Advancement Fellowship have about 300 good memory verse games. And we'll be doing those October 1st, the next training in Bothell, and you're all welcome to come. It's up on the free table bulletin board. It's an afternoon, like 10 till 2 o'clock training. But you know what? It's fun. We just do those once a month. And they're just fun. The whole thing's going to be on memorizing verses, and then there will be a good devotional on why to evangelize children. So, the element of surprise is important. And when you're with kids, the other thing I didn't really put up here, imagination, tender hearts, children have time. That's why we work with children. You know how busy adults are, right? I complained once because I hadn't been in the adult service for maybe a year, and that's too long. I should have been in the adult service, but we were at this church that had no other choices, and at that time we did not have online sermons at all. And I mentioned to my husband, I haven't been in church. I'm still in the 5-year-old class. I got 40, 50 kids at that time. He said, yeah, I know. Well, just ask the parents what the pastor spoke on, and then you'll know what the message was, Jan. Okay, I'll do that. So I stand by the door after children's church. What was pastor's main thought today? 1 out of 20 parents could tell me. You should try that experiment. Now the next Sunday, I come to the 4-year-olds. Oh, Teacher Jan, you told us that already. Oh, yeah, but wasn't this about 8 months ago or something? Those 4 and 5-year-olds, they knew what I had taught on months ago. And so these children have, and all the research, if you want to spend time in college, shows the brain is used, a tenth? But when they're children, it's really used a lot. Now that we can take pictures of our brain, how many have studied that brain research? It lights up when your brain's working. Do you know that when kids read and write, their brain lights up? And then when you and I are being entertained, like even right now, or watching TV, the brain gets dark because we're just watching someone else do it. Which to me says, Jan, you're going to learn more if you're teaching more. Because we all learn by teaching. Which then our children should be given the responsibility to go and teach someone else what they learned in Sunday school. You know, I had a teacher, in fact, when I was about 8, that would give me extra Sunday school papers. And so I do that now in my class when I have an extra handout. Who are you going to tell the story to this week? And these little second graders, they come back and they tell me. And if they have actually shared the Lord in the Sunday school lesson, I'll listen as long as they want to talk. What a pastor said. If someone in your congregation leads someone else to the Lord, bring them up to the platform and let them share about it. Because you know what? That's the most exciting thing in the whole week. But kids want to discover. And that's why we have this going for us as children's workers. And so even though somebody's really acting up, or they're going to talk about dangerous things here, and I'd like you to see the video, but we're out of time. Usually you can win them by just respecting them or by talking to them outside. Or my only secret with kids that were very disruptive is I'd start going to their house and I'd start giving them a little attention. It even works with 8th graders. Go visit them in their home. Give them an extra book or something. Give them a ball. You work with 4-year-olds. I knew a Sunday school teacher that she would go to a home on a child's birthday or like the day before or after they were 4 years old. That 4-year-old's never going to forget it. And when she gave them this $1 ball that she got from Dollar Store, you know, she would write a Bible verse on it with a marker. And I've even done that with kids with special needs that are in high school, and they prize that ball. They just love it. So the Lord will give you ideas as you use the ones you have. But I've run out of time. And what blanks did we not fill in? Oops. Okay, well, there's only 2. I think that, I noticed they want your own input into the games, talking and movement, so I tried to give you a little bit. For movement, change your position, have the children change it, same like you said. But the first one, of course, is the teacher. Did everyone get the first blank? Yes. Environment's important, but I can't change the temperature when I'm outside, right? I can change some things. I can bring blankets. I can do something. You want to make sure they're not too hungry when they're with you. That's why my husband always serves snacks first at Good News Club. I thought, Earl, shouldn't we have them work for it? Give them the cookies afterwards? Oh no, they're hungry. You know, that's so true. So he'd give them all these snacks that were nourishing before. And we started doing that in Sunday school. We started serving bread every morning. So important. There's a lot of kids who come to Sunday school. So those would be number 1, the causes of problems, environment, and needs. But who knows the blank? The big blank. 90% of the cause of problems in Good News Clubs. And you could hate me for saying this because I did. I hated a teacher for saying this. But 90% of the problems in Good News Club are because of the
Unprepared teacher.
Unprepared teacher. So put down unprepared teacher.
Oh, unprepared teacher.
That's 90%. She had no plan for the early birds.
Oh.
She wasn't relaxed enough. Oh. And then here you want to just write in who's praying for you. I have 2 people I know are praying for me. That's a good thing. So on problem prevention, they had the most funny skits, but I think you can imagine it. Teenagers need to see this video, and they would see teenagers coming late with no visuals. It was just so hilarious. So you want to say arrive early. That's what you want to say. Ask for wisdom. For number 2, if you're on page number 2, just put remove distractions when possible. If a child brought their favorite toy to your Sunday school class, why don't you put it up here where all the children can see it? They'll give it to you then. Otherwise, they won't. Because they brought this special toy, but it will be a distraction if everybody wants to hold it. So we'll put it right up here. If they made something with Lego during pre-service, we always would display those for others to see, and they'll be proud. Okay, the rest of this you're going to fill in. I always said for number 3, just be thankful for the room God has provided. Or use, it's both, you're supposed to say, use the room God has provided. if things aren't perfect, and lots of times children's ministry is not a priority in the church, here it is. Look at what they've done. They've given a beautiful classroom to the children. They've painted it. Most churches won't maybe do that. But a few pastors who have been reading Gallup's poll about children, how important it is to, if they don't really hear about the Lord before the age of 13, there's what? About a 30% chance then that they could become a believer after the age of 13. You really want to put your money into children's ministry. My husband, as a children's pastor, asked in the church budget for $1 per child per Sunday. That was a lot of money for the church to give him. But it took that because he wanted to buy some visuals and some things for the room, and he wanted to buy good snacks and the Sunday school papers. So all of our expenses came to about $1 per child per Sunday. And we have 52 Sundays in a year. If you have a 5-day club, just think, those hours are almost equal to 6 months of Sunday school. If you teach in a preschool like I do right now, a Christian preschool with 90% Hindu children, that the parents are trusting us, we get to have Sunday school 6 hours a day. Because our school makes it a priority. I mean, I don't always talk about the Lord, but you know, when you get to do Bible, you get to do Bible songs, you can talk about the Lord in the Christian school, that is adding hours. And I've had missionaries tell me, Jan, children have to hear about the Lord every day. When they're in the mission field and there's no adults interested in coming to church, but they gather up the children, that's how churches are planted, and those children become the pastors, the next generation. And it happens overseas all the time. Thank you. We now have the greatest mission field, and it's called King County, Washington. Thank you, Lord, for a good day, and thank you for these teachers that have given precious time. I know that you will multiply their time, as you have for me. We can't do everything, Lord, but you have paid us. You have paid us with souls, with children who have received you. And you paid us with joy. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And you've even given health at this time, like in my life. I thank you, Lord. Almost 70 years old, but you have kept me young, Lord. And I've noticed that people that work with children are so young at heart. And they are young in observing how children are. And you said we must have childlike faith. And then our hearts will not fail us for fear. We will trust you in these days that are coming. We won't worry. And we won't get scared. We won't have bad dreams like most all the children around us do. You've given sleep, Lord. You're the one who gives sleep, and you also said safety is of the Lord. And I thank you for these teachers that have a will to do your will. And I pray that you'll multiply their time and energies.